Hey y'all, welcome to episode 24 of the Stay at Home Son podcast. And today we have a very interesting director on. He has made an amazing short film called Meat Locker. This film has it all from humor to gore to guts to blood. It's just all around a fun watch and very digestible at a great 7 minute length. So, Mark, I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on. I'm quite honored to be here.
Yeah, well, we're happy to have you. And that film was definitely a lot to watch, and I enjoyed it. I loved every little twist and every little turn. So I even like some of the subtle messages. So I kind of like to always start off with what inspired the film and what was the process like going into creating it.
Well, first of all, I'm really happy that you guys liked the film and you obviously dedicated your time to watching it and sort of dissecting it. I understand it's not an easy watch for everybody. I understand it's not it doesn't quite have what you might expect, but that sort of is in line with how it was all developed. I got an early draft of this script back in 2023, I want to say. And it was a very brief document, but it had the title "Baby Fat." That was all that was there. And then obviously you got the story behind it. I immediately told my screenwriter Balash that we have to change that title, um, and it just kind of developed from there. I remember getting the full screenplay in 2024, and then starting to develop that into 2025 before actually moving into production. And it was a real roller coaster because we had to coordinate so many departments and so many special effects and so many things. We had 3 days to shoot it, which is a timeline that we adhere to quite strictly, um, and which lands us here.
I always like to ask about my favorite parts of the movie. I guess my favorite part of the movie was the bulk of the movie, which was the pregnancy scene. So how did the artist go about doing the blood and the special effects for that? And how did the cleanup process go after that scene too?
We went through quite a bit of fake blood. It wasn't actually as messy as I thought it would be, but it was definitely quite. The operating table was quite red after we were done. We set up sort of our own hospital room within a studio. It was just much easier than actually getting a real hospital. They would never subscribe to what we were doing. Um, and we just kind of went from there. There was a lot of fake blood, a lot of syringes sort of squirting stuff outward. Um, we had the umbilical cord constructed as well, which is another piece of fantastic practical effects work by Machi and the team. So we went pretty much all practical for this, as much as we could.
And I wanted I'm happy you mentioned that because we have a lot of filmmakers come on and some of them use effects, some of them use like CGI, other of them use practical. I really like how y'all were able to kind of use both as like practical as a baseline, but also use the effects to kind of blend in that and make that real. I feel like a lot of people don't think of that as an option. You can use both and make them both work effectively. So I applaud you for doing that on the film because it looks amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you first of all. Well, I'm a practical guy. I like doing if I know I can do something practically, I'm going to do it and I'm going to ask my team who are far better at this than I am and know more about the details that go into this. Obviously, we're working on a low budget, but you can kind of find the middle ground where yes, you're using practical effects, but you're using a little bit of VFX to sort of augment that and 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 make it more presentable and ultimately believable, which is the whole point of practical and visual effects.
Yeah, most definitely. And I like to always say like on films like this where it's like, kind of a lot and some people might not like it and other people really do like it. And it's a very divisive film with a lot of like, things that might turn people off or really bring people in. Is it hard to get casting for this kind of stuff when you explain like the role and stuff where people was the casting process a little difficult or were you able to find a team pretty quickly?
I was hesitant to send a script,
Right. Because
quite
sometimes
honestly, to whatever. Yeah, because I was like, do I really want to? Because I know all these actors personally. I'm friends with most of them, and I'm like, do I really want to make you say that? It's like when you go through it line by line. Do I really want to make you say that? You're so nice. Why are you doing this? Why are you gonna cut her open and do all these stuff? But the casting process, especially for the lead, we always knew we wanted Daniel Ilish in the lead. that was a given. But we did have trouble finding
So my
finding a suitable role for the female. And so my writer Balaj, he actually suggested, just out of the blue, what if Donnie could play both roles, and then we would just switch him up, throw him in a wig and makeup, and he could play both characters. And Donnie was super open to it right away. He had no reservations about that.
Was there some kind of like animal rights like message or anything behind the film? Because like with like the first like minute or couple minutes, that's kind of like the message I got. Because like
So from my perspective, the film is goes a bit further than just animal rights and how we as humans treat animals. The screenwriter Balaj, from what my understanding is, and from the extensive discussions that we've had, he wrote this as sort of a critique on animal cruelty and how we treat animals. There's a lot of different angles that you can go at it from. There's a lot of quality discussions that you can have about it. I've had these talks numerous times with cast members and people who have seen the film. Everybody has a slightly different variation of what it might be. Um, I think I think it's not just a great commentary on animal rights, but also about how we as humans treat each other. We've we've had a premiere event for it in Hungary, which went over quite well. I definitely want to send it to as many horror film festivals as possible. We've gotten great feedback from people who have seen it so far, and so that's quite exciting. I definitely want to at some point debut it online so it can reach as many people as possible. But for now, it will remain in the festival circuit.
Gotcha. Yeah, going to the festival circuit. Because a lot of filmmakers sometimes it's like, should you just put it right up live or should you do the festival circuit? But I think a film like this could really help all y'all if it was like on that festival circuit. So that's pretty cool. And I'm wishing you all the best with the festivals. Was there any inspirations to you as a director going into directing a film like this? Because it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Saw, a little bit, just like the gore. So I was wondering if you were kind of maybe inspired by that.
Right, right. So, I've never been a huge fan of gore horror or body horror or medical horror. That's not my genre, and so hence why I was quite hesitant when I was reading the script and just sort of visualizing in my head what I was about to direct.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the images were horrific, and but again, you sort of read between the lines, and you're like, oh yeah, so there's a reason why this gore is happening, and it's not just gory for the sake of being gory. But gore is not my thing. That's not the kind of horror that I consume. But there's a decided ground, as we call it, grindhouse aesthetic to it. That's sort of classical. That's sort of more classical horror. And then you have some older inspirations. For example, my first impression when I was reading the script was the Eye of the Beholder episode from Rod Serling's Twilight Zone. That was something that I drew from heavily when sort of prepping the short and sort of going into my notes on it. And that was something that I always kept in front of me when I was directing.
And what was the best day on set? Was there one day where it was like everyone was really happy to get stuff done, and was there one day that was really hard? Best and worst day, I guess.
Mm, I don't know. The thing is that I'm surrounded by so many amazing people, and this team in particular that pulled off Meat Locker are fantastic and pros, and it's not the first time that I've worked with them. Certainly not the last. We didn't have a difficult day per se, but there were days where we really had to coordinate. And I think the most fun day that we had was when we shot the actual hospital scenes because we just had such a comfortable studio and we had all
I
our
had a feeling it
props
would be
there
that
and the
one.
whole team was there. Yeah, that was really fun and just the most amount of crew on set that day. Everything was moving quite quickly. We had pretty much no in between time. So there was no downtime waiting for anybody for effects or lighting. Everything was flowing really well. The tightest day was the restaurant scene because obviously you have to shoot one one side, which is the male side, and then obviously you have to make sure that you keep your exact same settings, your exact same positions, so you can then go to the other side and shoot the female parts. And then, of course, you have a whole cooked pig coming in, which is being prepped in a kitchen about 20 minutes away in Budapest. And you have to wait for that to come in as well. So you have to sort of shoot around that. And so that required a lot of logistics and planning to make sure that we were on schedule and on time with all our setups.
And where was the film filmed at? What was the location?
Right. So the bedroom scene is just my apartment, which that was the best I could get, and I think it turned out fine. The actual hospital was a fake hospital room that we set up in a studio in Budapest as well. And then the restaurant scene was shot in an Italian restaurant, also in sort of in the heart of Budapest. So we kept it all local.
Nice. That's really cool. I like when they have like local, keeping your films local and stuff. I've directed one of my films and it was all locally shot, and there's definitely something cool about making a film right in your little area. It's familiar for sure.
Yeah, it's inspiring and it just kind of cool to, because everybody sort of lives nearby. Relatively, Hungary's not such a huge country, and when you break it down, Budapest isn't that huge. You can get around quite easily. So it was a really, all in all, despite everything that could have gone wrong, nothing went wrong, which is quite great for us.
Yeah, that's definitely what you want to say after. Congratulations on that, man, because I know how stressful it is to make these things. So congratulations on doing it and also being able to do it in your area and your local community. That's awesome. Most definitely. Well, Mark, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really enjoyed talking to you. And do you got any social medias that you want to link down and tell everyone where to follow you, where to check out your work?
Yeah, we have Instagram and Facebook, Troph Film Collective. That is our film brand, film organization, film group. We are an independent Hungarian film company. We produce all kinds of short films, from Hungary's first ever action short to right now we're releasing a military action short, feature film rather, and of course Meat Locker, and a smattering of other shorts from up and coming talent that are definitely worth checking out.
For sure. And I hope you all enjoyed today's episode of the Stay at Home Sons podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, stay at home.